Greetings, YouTube. This is Sixus, and with me is...
Sceptile, hello.
Yep, and today we're going to be talking about 10 anime cards that we think should be adapted. And as you can see from the 3 that I'm showing right now, with these being Orgoth the Relentless, Litmus Doom Swordsman, and Flying Elephant, particularly Flying Elephant, you can tell that it doesn't matter how even irrelevant in the case of Orgoth, because I think that was just from a few filler episodes of the anime. But yeah, it doesn't matter how relevant or how old the card is, there's still a good chance it can be printed. And based off of these, apparently there's a good chance of being printed in a Battles of Legend pack. And so, we're starting with one of his suggestions.
Yes. Protection of the elements. Now, I hear you're groaning. We already have enough elemental hero stuff. We have not enough. We need more elemental hero support. Now, what does this card do? It's a counter trap. I'm hearing you groaning. Oh, it's a trap. Traps can't be good in 2090. This is a good one. When your opponent activates a spell or trap, banish one elemental hero monster you control. Negate its activation. If you do, destroy it. The banished elemental hero monster is returned to the field during the end phase of the turn this card is active. So, it's a pretty decent effect for multiple reasons. It's actually better than it used to be. Already, spell and trap negation, just by getting rid of a hero temporarily, is pretty good, but because of the Link era, you are able to free up your extra zone if you had a fusion monster in it, or a linked zone that you had because of another Link monster, and instantly bring it back from the banished pile to any zone you want. So it's a pretty good card for negating spell and traps on its own, but now it has that extra effect of being able to get around the Link mechanic.
Another thing is, at least they're going to have a counter trap that isn't...
Feathers.
Yeah, the Avion counter trap.
What a shame.
Yeah. They have so many cards. That's the only counter trap. But if we adapt this one, that's going to change some things.
They have a good one.
Yeah. So, anything else you want to say about this one?
No, I think I summarized it pretty good.
Okay. Next up is Palanique Sarcophagus. If you control a Konami monster, draw 2 cards. I think we need to add a few more stipulations to this one.
Yes.
So I would say if you control only Konami monsters. Because I think that's enough of a restriction, especially that I think I've mentioned this multiple times, particularly to you. Konami have 4 cards that limit them to only summoning Konami monsters.
Yeah.
So you don't need that many restrictions because the archetype itself is already restricted enough. And let's face it, it's a draw 2 card. When aren't those good? Who isn't wanting Desires or what's the new one? Extravagance?
Yeah, I think it is called Extravagance now.
Yeah. But yeah, simple, straightforward. Konami's need more support. Gimmick Puppets got their new support.
Right.
Where's their little brother's support? Your turn.
Alright, so the next one is another hero. Oh, not another hero card. This is a good one. It's a Vision Hero. Vision Heroes are actually their own archetype, and I will probably talk about that in another video. But this card, I think, is the most deserving of the ones that we haven't already gotten, such as Witch Raider and Vion. This is one that I think will be actually very good in the deck. It's a level 5. Oh! You can special summon this. I'm overselling it. You can special summon this card from your hand by sending 1 level 4 or lower Vision Hero monster from your hand to the grave. And if this card is summoned, you can send 1 Vision Hero monster from your deck to your grave. Now, I'm pretty sure a once per turn clause would probably be put on the second effect at least.
Yeah.
If they were to adapt this, but also I think it would make sense to just make it say sending any hero from your hand to the grave to summon it, and sending any hero from the deck to the graveyard. Heroes already have enough of this, really, with Vion and Shadow Mist doing this. But this will just be another Dark Warrior that could be able to do basically the same thing as Vion, and you wouldn't even have to run Poly at that point. Because really, if you're running Vion, you kind of want to run Poly. If you're not trying to run Fusion Heroes and just trying to go for Mask Heroes, this card will be really good for that because it can just discard Shadow Mist to the grave, send a card to the grave, and then search with that Shadow Mist you just sent to the graveyard. You get to search another hero. So it also would be really good for links because it's the link monsters that heroes have, the extra heroes. I think all of them just say hero monsters, if I'm correct.
Though the new one here says Warriors Cross Guy.
Okay. But basically, this will be a really easy way to summon out any of those link monsters and other ones as well too. Izode, oh no, but but yeah, you can pretty much bring this thing out very easily, and also get a little bit more consistency with your deck as well. So, also if you get malicious in your hand, this is a way to discard it. So there you go, problem solved.
Fair enough. Next up, we got Seed Cannon Salvo. You can send one level 4 lower Predator Plant monster from your deck to the graveyard, inflict 300 damage to your opponent, and if you do, all monsters your opponent controls lose 600 attack, and if this card is destroyed, destroy cards your opponent controls up to the number of Predator Plant monsters you control. So, right off the back, it's a really good foolish spell, or there will be a once per turn clause due to it being a continuous spell.
Oh yeah.
And also the fact that it is 300 damage, not that much, but hey, good help. And on top of that, while you are dealing the damage, you're also decreasing the attack of other monsters by 600. Which is good because from what I've noticed, between Chimera Flasia and Starving Venom, they really like reducing your opponent's attack. So,
which is ironic because Venom tried that.
Oh, that's right. The other Venoms.
Yeah, we don't talk about those.
No, you talk about them constantly.
Actually, yeah. We did in another video.
Yeah, I don't talk about them because I tend to forget about them. But no, you're the one that brings them up.
I tried to build them. It wasn't a good time.
But yeah, and also if they do try and destroy this, you'll just be able to pop their cards up to the number of power plants you control. I'd say that's pretty good and would be rather interesting. I think Cordyceps also likes being in the graveyard.
Okay.
Well, you're up next with a combination card.
Yeah, so this is one where I looked at it and I'm like, nah, this wouldn't be that great. But then I saw another card and I was like, maybe there's potential to combine cards. Because if I'm correct, they have done that before in the past where they took two card effects and combined them onto one card.
Yeah, such as Fight for Seep, and Go Extria and Go Dexia.
Yeah. And so for this, it's a magnet. It's technically kind of like a magnet warrior, but it's actually not related at all. It was something in, what'd you say, Zexal?
Yeah, Zexal.
Yeah, it really doesn't. It really doesn't fit with the archetype much at all.
But we're forcing it into it.
I'm forcing it into it here.
Your magnet connect.
Basically, this will be like an ABC of Magnet Warriors. And Magnet Warriors kind of already have that, but it's in the main deck. So this will give them a way to do it. Outside of that, it has 3,500 attack, which is good. It's got 1,500 defense, which is a little bit weaker, but that's kind of the trade-off for the attack. And its effect is, if this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack of the destroyed monster. It doesn't even list the fusion materials on this card, so... It's kind of funny.
Hence why we had to include the fusion card itself in with this.
Magnet Fusion. You special summon that monster from your extra deck by attributing Magnet Eagle, Delta, Magnet Ape Epsilon, and Magnet Crocodile Zeta as fusion materials. But my thoughts are, let's just make it a contact fuse card that takes just any 3 Magnet Warriors with different names. I feel like that would help out a lot of the problems with the archetype because me, a player of Magnet Warriors, you can bring out the level 4s, the vanillas, really easily. You can bring out Delta really easily, but Delta himself is useless for the summons of the big monsters other than Valkyrion, and Valkyrion isn't necessarily a great card. It's just easier to bring out now. And with the vanillas, they don't really do anything. They're just kind of banished fodder for the new boss monster they have. But adding this fusion would allow you to use those monsters and bring out something. Now, this thing doesn't have any kind of crazy effect. It just has the after battle effect of doing some burn damage, which is pretty good. Uh, but I figured there's another effect that should be tagged on here just to fit with the theme of the archetype, and that is if it's destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you can special summon 3 of your banished magnet warriors from your graveyard. I feel like that makes sense. I think it kind of fits with the archetype. Yeah, is it like ABC? Of course it is. But it basically, I feel like the archetype needs something like this to work with the pieces, the magnet warriors that don't really fit with it currently. That being the vanillas, and that's just a way to tie it up, or give them a link monster.
So next up, this is simple. Fire recovery. Fire recovery, yes, lets you discard 1 fire monster to select 1 fire monster in your graveyard, special summon it. It was used by actual Bodhi in the GX anime. Makes sense. He was using volcanics. So this is just a added boost for fire decks. As someone who likes Lavars and Fire Kings and Hazy Flames, while we're at it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely in favor of this one. Particularly with Hazy Flames, because good looking monsters on the field.
Right. It's also good for Shiranui as well.
Like I said, it's simple. It's just discard the special summon. And
right.
technically,
I mean, Dark has a lore of darkness. Water has Moray of greed and salvage and all that kind of stuff. But Fire doesn't really have much as far as revival.
Neither's Wind.
Right. So there needs to be more attribute support for the underappreciated attribute.
Yeah. Because light, dark, these have plenty of cards going for them. And Earth is just omnipresent at this point. There's so many Earth cards. Majority of the Messine archetypes are Earth.
Yeah, I always kind of groan whenever I see another Earth Machine archetype. I'm like, not again.
Ancient Gil, Gilgia, Karakuri.
There's more. There's plenty more.
Yeah.
We're just not naming them.
that would increase the video length so much. But yeah, it's fire and wind that just get left behind. And whenever they do get a good card, these being Rekindling or Divine Wind, guess what happens?
It gets banned or limited.
Yep.
No.
But Dark managed to get a Law of Darkness back to 3.
Yeah, no. It's kind of unfair.
I think Konami has favorites.
Yes. They have a dark, edgy side.
But anyway, you up.
And so this is Earthbound Immortals. Now, Earthbound Immortal is not a good archetype by any means. It has nothing really going for it whatsoever. But this kind of idea I had when I looked at these 2 cards is something that would make it a bit more consistent. So what does this field spell do? First of all, it's a field spell, so that's already good for Earthbound Immortals. I don't understand why they don't have a field spell, but Malefics have a field spell, but they do basically the same kind of thing. Except they don't summon themselves, so they're so much worse. But anyway, Earthbound Prison. Negate any effect that would change the attack of a face-up monster on the field. I don't know. If this card in the field zone is destroyed, half the life points of the player that destroyed it, and if you do, negate the effects of all face-up monsters they control. That's pretty good, because it discourages your opponent from getting rid of the thing that would destroy you. Ultimately, they would end up losing all their monster effects permanently, while also getting rid of half their life points. So, if they were at 8,000, poof, half their life is gone. And while life points necessarily, I would say, is a better sacrifice if your opponent's got a whole board of Earthbound Immortals. It's not going to happen. But, it's something there. And I feel like if Konami wanted to, I mean, they made Malefics pretty good. So if they wanted to, they could make Earthbound Immortals really good. And this next card is kind of where you'll see the combination kind of come together. Ultra the Bound Deity. Continuous trap once per turn during your standby phase. Place an Earthbound Immortal counter on this card for each face-up defense position monster. Oh boy. While this card has 4 or more Earthbound Immortal counters on it, you can send this card to the grave. Special summon 1 Earthbound Immortal monster from your deck. Now this is the idea I like. However, much too slow. First of all, it's during the standby phase. Second of all, it's defense position monsters that are face up.
Links exist.
Yeah, exactly. Links make it even worse. It was already terrible, but it makes it even worse now that links exist. And so, the idea that I had for this is get rid of the negate the effect that would change attack. I don't understand where that's coming from, but uh, maybe there's something I'm just not getting with this. But keep the field spell aspect of it so it's searchable with terraforming, as well as the effect that if your opponent destroys it, half their life points are gone and their monster effects are negated. I like that idea. Punishing your opponent for getting rid of something you need to win the game. Um, it's a good kind of way to prevent your opponent from doing that without having to think. Anyway, then alter. I like the idea of being able to summon Earthbounds from the deck, but I think nowadays it should be more consistent. Hand deck or grave, special summon an Earthbound Immortal. Still removing 4 counters, but how you get those counters is vastly different. You just once per turn at any point, you can place 1 counter on this card for each card on the field. So ideally, you're not going to want to go first with it unless you have a way of getting a bunch of cards on the field. And there are actually some Earthbound Immortal cards that can swarm, surprisingly enough, that are from the anime. Um,
The
but
Earthbound Prisoner
yeah,
sub
yeah, yeah.
archetype.
And ironically, with Earthbound Prison. But how this will work basically, if you go second, the field spell you would activate it because it's not a trap anymore. You'd be able to, if your opponent was setting up a link field or if they have some face downs as well as a couple monsters, you could pretty easily get 4 on the field. I'm not saying it's going to happen every time, but in the modern decks that are played today, yeah, most of the time they get a pretty big field immediately. So you can do this, put 4 counters on it, and then immediately summon an Earthbound Immortal. Your field spell, while it's up, your monsters aren't going to die, basically. Um, and essentially, the field spell is something your opponent might want to think twice about getting rid of. So I think it would be a pretty decent starting point for the archetype to become good. Uh, but of course, it would still need a lot more than that.
Yeah. Next up, Joe Mabel. Joe Mabel says that activate. You can only activate this when a face-up Ojama monster you control is destroyed and sent to the graveyard. Return that card to the deck, then draw 2 cards, and after that, discard 1 card. So, it relies on Ojama being destroyed. Hey, what's the average attack and defense of an Ojama?
0 and 1,000.
Well, that seems simple enough. And also, Ojama Blue, you want it to die.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Then you return it to the deck, which is actually beneficial because a lot of the Chaz it up, let's call it that. The Chaz it, yeah, the Chaz it up wave of Ojama support. Putting them in the deck is very beneficial because of Oja Magic. Being able to, yes, ensure that you have enough cards in them, in the deck, that you can draw a black, yellow, and green every time you use the effect. Also, draw 2. When isn't draw 2 good?
Oh,
then, discard a card. Like I said, Oja Magic. When a card is destroyed, put it back into the deck. Draw 2 cards. Discard Oja Magic. By one monster being destroyed, you have, yes, added 4 cards to your hand. So I would say that would be pretty good. I'm honestly surprised that it hasn't been printed. Yeah, it's Ojama. They tend to get a lot of cards printed, regardless of if they're actually good or not.
Yeah.
Well, you're up, and it's your favorite archetype.
Last but definitely not least, my favorite card. If they're gonna put an anime card on this list, I want this one to be it. It is Gladiator Beast Medusa's Shield. Now, this is an anime card, of course, and it's pretty interesting because it's a continuous. It's a trap. Groan. You activate this card by targeting a Glad Beast you control. It cannot be destroyed by card effects, which is already pretty good. But if that monster leaves the field, destroy this card. Once per turn, during your turn, you can negate the effect of one monster your opponent controls, which is pretty nice. Pretty nice utility being able to do that. Then once per turn during the end phase, if this card is in the grave because it was sent there this turn, you can set a Gladiator Beast trap directly from your deck. This is where it gets really good. Being able to set your counter trap directly from the deck is very, very powerful. And overall, you can set itself as well. I don't think they should change that either. I see nothing wrong with being able to set another copy of Medusa's shield. I don't think this card is that good that it's going to be abused. But I definitely think it's pretty good protection for Gladiator Beast, preventing them from being destroyed by card effects. They have another equipped spell that it protects them from being destroyed by battle. And just like all the other equipped spells, if the monster leaves the field, the card comes back to your hand. And that's the difference with this card, is that if the monster leaves the field, destroy this card, but instead of recycling back to your hand, it sets one directly from the deck, which is, I think, a much better way of doing it, because you would have to set it and then wait a turn to activate it. In this case, if it's in the graveyard, it'll send there this turn. During your end phase, you could set that counter trap, and then the next turn you can activate it. And since it's the end of that turn, your opponent's not really going to have a lot of ways to deal with that. Interrupt it, basically. Yeah. So it's a pretty decent card overall. Of course, there is a chance that you're going to brick with it, but at least it does have Gladiator Beast in its name, so it can be used with Respite to shuffle it back into the deck if you want to. And I think overall it's a pretty decent card.
So, my last one, White Prosperity.
Oof.
I was expecting a different reaction. Okay. Yeah, he has a lot of fun making fun of this thing's name. Not helped by the fact that one of the ones that we have had printed, well, not in America printed, but in Japan printed, is, what is that one again? White Salvation.
White Supremacy.
There's the joke. Okay.
Yes.
So, White Prosperity states that from your manga phrasing, from your hand, special in 2 white monsters that are level 4 or lower and have the same name. Simplified, and because there is no actual white archetype in IOL Yu-Gi-Oh! For obvious reasons. Blue Eyes White Dragon. White Salvation changes it from white monsters to fists. So let's go with that wording. So
makes sense.
It's a spell card that will let you special in 2 level 4 lower fist monsters with the same name. With Nimble, the Nimble series, not quite an archetype. With the Nimble series, you already have an emphasis on wanting multiple copies of level 2 fist monsters, meaning you would already have a possibility of using this card. So overall, it's really not too bad, especially that the effect of White Salvation is that you can add any fist from your grave back to your hand, meaning you can just return one that you have that has the same name as one in your hand, just to speed up the process. I don't think it would be that. So it might be kind of situational because you're not always going to have 2 of the same exact name, but it's not be that difficult given that we're dealing with Nimble and just fists in general. You tend to want multiple copies of the fist monsters.
Yep. Typically, you run 3 of a card if it's really good, and most of the Nimble cards, you're gonna want to run 3 of.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say?
Where's Black Salvation? Where's Black Prosperity? So unfair.
Okay, on that note, we're ending the video.